Shocking truth. Black police chief arrested at 3 a.m. Cops freeze when they realize who he is. The night was dark and trembling. A heavy blanket of fog draped over the quiet streets of Riverside. The clock struck 3, sending eerie echoes through the empty alleyways. Suddenly, headlights sliced through the mist, illuminating the figure of a man, knees bent low, hands clasped behind his head. A squad car rolled to a stop, sirens fading into silence like a whispered secret. Officers stepped out, faces tight with disbelief. They stared. The air thickened with tension. This wasn't just any arrest. The man they restrained was the Chief of Police, James J. Carter, a towering symbol of justice. This was beyond scandal. It felt like a betrayal that twisted in the gut. But it wasn't just the badge that shocked them. Rumors had whispered around the precinct, strange tales about Carter's late-night escapades. Why was he on the streets at this hour? What demons lurked behind his stoic exterior? Was it an accident? Or something much darker? As they cuffed him, his eyes flashed, a window into his scattered thoughts, confusion mingling with anger. Riverside's finest now had their leader, a man once revered, brought low. The air crackled with incredulity. Local reporters, tipped off, arrived like vultures. They hovered at a distance, not ready to confront the chaotic truth in the faint glow of their screens. A few brave residents peered from their windows, backs pressed against the cold glass, breaths held. The whispers spread like wildfire. Did you hear? The chief? At this hour? The murmurs alone were electric, igniting speculation that could go up in flames. Just as the tension reached a breaking point, before their hearts could settle into a rhythm, an officer bent down, the words spilling from his lips like ash. You have no idea who you messed with. A fear pulsated, palpable enough to choke on. What had Carter gotten involved in that warranted such a warning? And why did his face seem so haunted? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As officers led him toward the cruiser, the tension morphed into something sinister. The shadows shifted like they had minds of their own, whispering secrets. What was happening? The chief was supposed to protect them, uphold the law. The crowd began to murmur louder now, their shock turning into a cacophony of disbelief. Wasn't he a hero? Those eyes, now so distant, held unanswered questions that twisted the very fabric of their trust. Behind noise and confusion, a quiet figure loomed, eyes glistening with intrigue. Who was watching? What else would unravel? As they drove away, leaving the phantom past behind, a chill crept into the night, and the chilling realization sank in. The deeper this mystery went, the more lives were at stake. What secrets were about to be laid bare? The darkness tightened its grip around the town, as shadows danced with purpose at the edge of the lamplight. Carter's arrest had opened a floodgate of worries and whispers that lingered in the air like the fog itself. What secrets had he been hiding? What had he done that would lead to such a public humiliation? Inside the cruiser, it was silent except for the sound of cuffs clinking against the metal. Carter stared blankly out the window as the streets blurred past, his mind racing. Faces swam in and out of his thoughts, familiar yet distant. He had fought for years to earn respect, and yet, here he was reduced to this. What would his family say? His colleagues? The community that trusted him? As the officers navigated the streets, someone in the backseat spoke up, breaking the silence that weighed heavy. You think this is just about the traffic stop, Chief? It was Officer Ramirez, his voice low but laced with an edge. Carter turned, surprise flickering across his face. What are you talking about? Look, you've got some powerful people involved. Ramirez leaned forward, his voice dropping even lower. More than just simple allegations. This runs deeper, it's connected. And you know this how? Carter's heart hammered against his chest. He felt a pulling inside, the instincts of a cop kicking in. There was always something lurking below the surface if you knew how to look. A tip-off. Someone's been watching you for a while, Ramirez replied, his narrowed eyes boring into Carter's. "You've got to tread carefully. This isn't just about your badge anymore." The cruiser slowed, lights of the precinct flashing ahead like an indifferent jury. As they pulled into the parking lot, Carter felt the weight of gazes on him, like spears piercing his already fragile composure. The world outside was a whirlpool of chaos. Reporters clamored for his attention, eager to capture the first sign of a reaction, a twitch, a blink, anything they could use for their headlines. Every voice blended into a single roar in his ears, an echo of betrayal. Officers ushered him toward the entrance, but Carter couldn't shake the feeling that the walls were closing in. An ache formed in his gut. For the first time he felt like a suspect, not the chief. As they stepped past the threshold, a distinct echo of voices reached him. It was a line of officers standing in solidarity, but he could read the doubt written on their faces. His heart twisted painfully at the sight. The very team he had built now doubting him. "Carter!" A voice rang out. A tall figure emerged from the gathering, dressed in a suit that shimmered like authority. It was Mayor Thompson, eyes grim. "We need to talk about this now." The words hung heavy in the air. The intensity shifted, a storm brewing in those very few moments. Carter felt anger flaring within him, but fear too, fear of what may be revealed, of his own hidden skeletons. "Let us find a private room," Thompson urged, leading him away from prying eyes. As they walked, Carter sensed shadows lurking behind the gleaming badge and the polished shoes around him. Stakes were rising, hidden forces pushing and pulling like puppeteers in a grand conspiracy. He thought of Ramirez's warning. Had he really been targeted? And if so, by whom? Just as they were about to step into the room, Carter paused. "What if they're watching us right now?" The mayor's expression hardened. "Then we'll expose them first." But who were they? The whispers of secrets long buried seemed more alive than ever. As the door closed behind them, a blast came from the other side, echoed by muffled shouts. The precinct descended into chaos. What was about to explode within those walls? Carter's heart sank. Nothing would ever be the same again. With the flames of uncertainty licking at his heels, he could only wonder. What had he really stumbled into, and would he ever escape its grasp? The door slammed shut behind them, a barrier against the chaos swelling just outside. Inside the small, windowless room, the air felt electric, charged with tension. Carter's mind raced as he tried to gather his thoughts. He could feel the heat of the betrayal simmering in his chest, but he couldn't show it, not now. Thompson leaned against the table, arms crossed tightly. "You need to trust me, Carter. Whatever's happening isn't just about you. This affects the whole department." Carter nodded, but the uncertainty gnawed at him. "What do you know? What's this really about?" His voice came out stronger than he felt. The more he probed, the more that pit in his stomach twisted. "Let us just say there are forces out there that want to see you taken down." The mayor's face hardened, shadowed by the harsh fluorescent lighting. "They're willing to do anything to discredit you, to turn this whole town against you." "Why?" Carter demanded, desperation creeping into his tone. "Why now? I've done nothing but serve this community. I wish I could tell you." There was a flicker of something in Thompson's eyes. Was it fear? "It's bigger than both of us. All I know is that someone is pulling strings, and they're not scared to tear down anyone in their way." Just then there was a loud boom from the other side of the door, followed by frantic voices. Carter's heart raced as panic rose in his chest, filling the empty spaces of the room. What the hell was that? Thompson motioned for silence, straining to listen. The muffled chaos beyond the door was disorienting, echoes merging into a cacophony of screams and commands. "I don't," Carter began, but the mayor cut him off. "Stay calm. We need to figure out what's happening outside before we make any rash decisions." His eyes narrowed, analyzing the door as if it might give answers. Before Carter could respond, the door flew open with a crash, revealing Officer Ramirez, his face pale and breathless. "Chief! Mayor! You need to get out of here now." "What's going on?" Carter demanded. "Shots fired. Someone's attacking the precinct." Ramirez's eyes were wide, full of adrenaline and fear. "We don't know who. Or why." Carter felt the floor drop from beneath him. The stakes had escalated. The darkness was no longer just a threat lurking behind shadows. It was here, alive, as real as the gunfire now echoing through the halls. Grab what you can, Ramirez instructed urgently. We need to regroup at a safe location. You're the target, Chief. They're coming for you. The gravity of the situation hit Carter like a punch. His badge was no longer a symbol of authority, it had turned into a beacon, drawing danger toward him and everyone near. What about the others? Demanded Thompson, fear etched on his face. They're on their own. Right now we can't risk being cornered here. Ramirez started herding them toward the back exit. Carter's mind was a storm of confusion. Could he really run? Turn his back on his own? But was there any other choice? Panic clawed at his throat as everyone moved in a rush. Just before they reached the door, another explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered, casting long, frantic shadows that shimmered and snapped at their heels. A broken wall signaled that no one would remain safe once that door was breached. Go! Ramirez shouted, urgency snapping through the air like a whip as they dashed through the doorway into the alley behind the precinct. The distant sounds of chaos clung to them like a curse. But amid the chaos, uncertainty lingered. Who had launched this attack? What forces were lurking in the shadows, orchestrating this uprising? And most haunting of all, who had betrayed him? An icy dread settled in Carter's veins as he glanced back at the chaos unfolding, whispering to himself, this isn't over, it's only just begun. What lay ahead in the dark was anyone's guess, but one truth screamed louder than the gunfire. Allies could turn enemies in an instant. The night was far from finished. Carter stumbled into the alley, heart pounding louder than the distant gunfire. He could feel the breath of the night, heavy and oppressive on his skin. Shadows danced menacingly against the walls, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that something insidious was closing in around them. Keep moving, Ramirez urged, her voice slicing through the tension. They rounded a corner, ducking into another narrow passageway. Thompson lagged behind, hurriedly patting his pockets, eyes darting in every direction. Did you see anyone? Any familiar faces? Carter whispered, urgency tinging his words. His mind swirled with doubt. Could one of his own officers have turned against him? No, Thompson replied sharply, shaking his head. But someone clearly knows you're the target. Fear pricked at Carter's skin. Wasn't he just the chief? He was a father, a husband. His duty to keep his family safe swirled relentlessly in his thoughts. As they ducked into a darkened alcove, they shielded themselves momentarily from the chaos outside. The distant sounds of destruction buzzed like angry wasps. Do you have a plan? Ramirez asked, her eyes fierce, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her. Carter opened his mouth to respond, then hesitated. It would be easy to give in to the panic, to run, but would that really help? We need to find a secure location. Somewhere they won't expect us. Thompson nodded, clenching his jaw. There's an old warehouse a couple of blocks away. We used it for training in the past. It might have the cover we need. But as they prepared to move, a sharp sound pierced the night, a gunshot, followed by shouts. They paused, breaths caught in their throats, their hearts hammering as the reality of being hunted washed over them. Hard to believe we're the prey, Ramirez muttered bitterly, teeth grinding. Carter shot her a look. Don't lose hope. They have to make mistakes, he declared, though even as he said it, doubt gnawed at his insides. Let us move, Thompson barked, breaking the tension. They sprinted toward the mouth of the alley, which opened onto an unlit street. Each step was laced with urgency, adrenaline flooding their veins. Suddenly, lights cut through the darkness, headlights, bright and blinding, barreling down the road. They froze, hearts in their throats. A black SUV screeched to a halt, and with a stutter, the back door flung open. What are you waiting for? A voice yelled, unmistakably familiar. Turn around, Carter shouted, too late as his instincts screamed that it was a trap. The figure emerging from the shadows wasn't one he expected. It was Officer Daniels, a once trusted ally, but bloodshot eyes and wild hair betrayed his anxiety. Get in. We don't have time. No way, Ramirez snapped, stepping forward. You could be the reason we're in this mess. No, I'm trying to save you, Daniels hollered, panic finally breaking through the bravado. It's worse than you think. We're not just talking about a few bad cops. It's a full-scale operation. Carter could feel the weight of every choice pressing on him. Trusting someone he had known for years felt like stepping out onto a tightrope above a chasm of darkness. Do we trust him? Ramirez whispered, fear biting through the question. Carter could feel betrayal lurking in the air, waiting to wrap its hands around his throat. Would they risk it all for a chance at safety or carry on alone, facing the shadows head-on? There's too much at play here, he muttered, glancing back down the alley where the sounds of chaos now felt closer, more visceral. We need to move now. But just as they armed themselves with a tentative resolution, a round of gunfire erupted behind them. Carter's heart dropped into his stomach. They weren't just being hunted. They were now cornered, with their next move deciding their fate. As the echoes of gunshots faded into unsettling silence, Carter knew one truth. It was a matter of life and death. But who truly wanted him gone? Who could he even trust as the darkness drew closer? They had to decide fast or risk losing everything. And then, with another crash, reality shattered. Who would betray them next? Carter hesitated only for a moment. The chaos behind them rang louder than his doubts. Seconds melted into heated whispers as adrenaline crackled in the air. Ramirez's eyes flicked nervously between the black SUV and the encroaching darkness. Carter, we can't afford to waste time, Thompson urged, his voice trembling, the urgency palpable. What if Daniels is leading us into a trap? Ramirez shot back, her face a mask of fear, and Carter could see her hand twitching, ready to pull her weapon. Daniels' voice pierced through the fading gunfire, raw and desperate. You have to trust me. I know things. They're coming for us all. He gestured wildly, each movement sharp with panic. Not just you, the force, the whole department. The weight of his words hung like dark clouds overhead. Carter's heart raced as he considered the possibilities. Could it be true? Were they caught in the crossfire of something larger? Are you gonna let fear write the narrative for our lives? Daniels pleaded, eyes wide with determination that it was a risk. A gamble that could end in disaster. But Carter felt the steel in his spine as he glanced at Thompson, then Ramirez. They needed to survive this night, not just for themselves, but for the families waiting at home. Let us move, Carter shouted, breaking the silence like a gunshot. They sprinted toward the SUV. Once they were inside, the doors locked with a grim finality. Go, 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 Ramirez urged as Daniels shoved his foot down on the gas. The tires screeched and they lunged forward, tearing away from the alley. The bright lights of the city blurred past them, a twisted sense of safety wrapped inside this metal cocoon. But the moment lost its warmth. Every shadow outside felt predatory. The silence of the night was suffocating as they weaved through the unlit streets. No sirens, no rescue, just a thick sense of dread. Where to? Thompson asked, fingers tightly gripping the seat, knuckles white. There's a safe house just outside the district, an old informant used it, Daniels said, urgency threading his voice. If we can get there, we can regroup and figure out who's behind this. Carter nodded, but doubts swirled in his mind. What if they opened that door and walked straight into the jaws of their enemies? The SUV rolled to a stop, tires crushing gravel as they pulled into the deserted lot. Carter's heart hammered harder. Would this be their salvation or their demise? They hopped out, scanning their surroundings. The safe house loomed in front of them, a ghost of its former self. Broken windows glowered like empty eyes. Stay close, Carter instructed, instincts kicking in. In the stillness, each breath felt like a countdown. They crept towards the entrance, the door creaking open like a warning. Felt wrong. Trust issues aside, Ramirez whispered, tension crawling beneath her skin. If this was all a setup. Shoo, Carter hissed, raising a hand to silence her as they crossed the threshold. The familiar scent of musty wood filled the air. It felt both haunting and inviting, the very walls seeming to breathe in their fear. He took a step inside, eyes darting. There was something off. A chill danced along his spine. Then they heard it, a faint clicking noise, like the sound of a camera shutter. It echoed through the hall, bouncing off the walls and sending shivers racing down Carter's back. What was that? Thompson's voice quivered, his face draining of color. And just like that, a light flicked on, illuminating the room and revealing a figure hidden in the corner. Carter's blood ran cold as he squinted against the harsh light. Welcome, said a voice they all recognized but never expected. Agent Collins? Carter breathed, shock coursing through him. The agent's smile was twisted, a perverse reflection of their fear. I've been waiting for you, and in that moment, all hope felt suspended in the air. What terrible truth awaited them? shoved deep in the heart of betrayal. Who had orchestrated this game? The air thickened with tension, a smothering haze wrapping around the team as Agent Collins stepped forward, his movements sluggish yet deliberate. In the dim light, the years of their shared history felt like grime on the walls of the shabby safe house. Carter's heart thudded in his chest like a wild drum, pulsing uncertainty through his veins. "What do you want from us, Collins?" Carter demanded, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Oh, Carter," Collins said, his tone dripping with mockery, "don't play dumb. You know why you're here. It's all part of the plan." Thompson's eyes darted between the agent and the door, a primal survival instinct flickering in his gaze. "What plan? Are you working with them? You put us in danger." Collins laughed, a chilling sound that echoed against the peeling paint. "Danger? You could say that. But this isn't about you, not yet." Carter's stomach twisted. "Then what is it about? What do you know?" A shadow danced across Collins' face, igniting an unsettling gleam in his eye. "Let us just say the whole department has been compromised. And you're all pawns easily discarded." Each word sent shockwaves over Carter's skin. "What do you mean compromised? Who's behind this?" He thought of the men and women they served with, the trust that had once united them all now seemingly crumbling. "Don't act surprised, Carter. You really think you can fight them? They're everywhere." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Your own chief is on their payroll. He sold you all out." A cold realization settled like a stone in Carter's gut. It felt like betrayal on a cosmic scale, fracturing the very foundation he thought stood strong. "Stop lying, Collins. You're trying to play us against each other." The agent's eyes glimmered with cruel amusement. "I'm not lying. But when the shooting starts, how will you know who's the enemy? Or do you think just shooting your way out of this will solve everything?" Ramirez pushed past Carter, her resolve shimmering through the desperation. "Enough games. If you know something, you'd better spill it. We're not here for your twisted entertainment." The mocking smile faded from Collins' lips, replaced by something darker. "You think you're the heroes in this story? The truth is far more complex. I'm here to offer you a choice. Join me and we can turn this city upside down. Or continue playing the knight in shining armor, until you're just another casualty on the street." Silence throbbed in the room, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Thompson took a step back, his eyes wide with fear. "You can't be serious. We'd never side with you." Collins shrugged, a nonchalant gesture that carried weight. "You might not have a choice when the bullets start flying. You'll wish you had." As fear coiled tighter around Carter's heart, he felt the ground shift under him. Could they trust Daniels? Could they trust anyone? This plan was bigger than their small team. It had roots that ran deep within the department. Suddenly, a noise outside, heavy footsteps and urgent murmurs scraped at the tension like nails on glass. The world felt shaky and precarious. "Sirens," Ramirez hissed, eyes narrowing. "They're coming." Collins stepped back, chuckling darkly. "Looks like your time's running out. Choose now." His words hung in the air, saturating it with dread. "Carter," Thompson whispered, terror etching lines on his face. And before Carter could respond, Collins was gone, slipping into the shadows like a phantom. Their resolve was crumbling. Suddenly, the door banged open, and a flood of officers surged inside. The chaos that followed was as wild as it was disorienting, confusion spiraling into a frantic rush. But behind them, a figure loomed in the darkness, an ominous silhouette that sent chills racing down Carter's spine. "Now you'll find out just how deep this rabbit hole goes," and with that, everything exploded into chaos. He had no idea who to trust anymore. Where would it lead them if they didn't escape alive? The flood of officers poured into the room, their faces a mix of determination and surprise. The sound of multiple feet thudded against the floor, drowning out Carter's racing thoughts. He scanned the chaos, adrenaline pumping through his veins like a river. "Carter, we need to," Ramirez shouted, but a harsh voice cut her off. "Hands up, everyone." An officer barked, weapon drawn, aimed directly at them. Carter's breath caught in his throat. They hadn't just been ambushed, they were being overrun by their own. He could feel the panic rising like bile. "Wait, we're not." "Shut it," the officer yelled, eyes darting, looking for a threat. The team instinctively raised their hands, fear painted across Thompson's ashen face. This was a complete betrayal. He could almost hear the clock ticking down, each second more damning than the last. Stay calm, Ramirez hissed, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. We have to stick together. We have to. What did you do? A voice broke through, belonging to Officer Daniels, the very chief they had trusted. He stepped forward, eyes narrowed in suspicion. You were supposed to be safe. Why are you here? Trying to figure out what's going on. We've got an informant, Carter started, desperation cracking his voice as eyes turned from him to Daniels, then back. An informant? Daniels scoffed, betrayal tangling in the air. It's a trap. You're the one stirring up trouble. Carter felt the ground rip from beneath him. We're not the ones in the wrong. Collins, enough. Another officer shouted, his hands tightening on his weapon. I'll take no chances. A sick realization washed over Carter. This was it. The corruption ran so deep they didn't just threaten him and his team. They were about to fire on their own. Just then the ominous figure from the shadows shifted, stepping into the light. It was Collins again, but now he wore a smirk of triumph, seeming to relish this moment. Look at this, Carter. Look at how easily they turned on you. Pathetic, really. Get back. Daniels snapped. You're not part of this. Am I not? You really think you hold the reins here, Chief? You made a deal with the devil. Now it's time to pay up. Carter's heart raced, the tension suffocating. Daniels, listen to me. Collins has twisted everything. It's a trap, enough. Daniels spat, the venom in his tone freezing Carter's blood. You're putting this whole operation at risk. I can't let you get us killed. Kill us? You're the one who's compromised. Ramirez yelled, her voice rising with panic. Every second felt like a countdown to disaster. Collins stepped forward, eyes gleaming as if he thrived on their fear. Oh, this is just the beginning. You see, the lines of trust have been drawn, and this is where it all falls apart. He gestured to the officers who shifted uneasily, uncertainty gnawing at them. Carter could feel hope slipping away. We can't let this end here. We need to escape. But before he could reveal a plan, the tightness of the room surged. Outside, the sirens grew louder, echoing betrayal and chaos. The officers shifted, nerves fraying. Stand down, Carter, Daniels warned, his voice low but full of authority. This is your last chance to comply. The weight of the moment crashed down like a wave, drenching Carter in icy fear. Was there truly nowhere left to turn? The choice hung heavily between them. Trust a corrupted chief or face a phantom of betrayal in their own ranks. Choose your allies wisely, Collins taunted. As the tension spiraled toward a breaking point, blades of uncertainty dancing in the air. And just like that, everything exploded. Their illusions of safety crumbled as outside the door burst an avalanche of chaos, shouts mingling with gunfire. What the hell? Thompson gasped, eyes wide in disbelief, as the floor erupted beneath them, and shouts rose to a fever pitch. Carter felt the walls closing in, reality collapsing as he gripped the fragile thread of hope. We have to get out now. Move. But headed where? Trust had become a weapon, and Carter couldn't shake the feeling that they were surrounded by wolves dressed in blue. In the frenzy, uncertainty thundered in his mind. Who would make it out alive? And when the dust settled, would they still be fighting the same enemy or each other? The alarms blared like a chorus of demons, drowning out any rational thought. Everyone seemed frozen in place, caught between fear and disbelief. Carter's heart raced as he stole a glance at Ramirez. Her face was lined with determination, but even she seemed to wobble. With a sudden movement, one of the officers lurched forward, still pointing his gun. Drop your weapons. He wasn't shouting at Carter's team. No, that command was aimed at his fellow officers, who were still processing the chaos unfolding before them. The air thickened with confusion. Some officers hesitated, guns wavering between duty and distrust. Daniels. Collins crowed, the glee evident in his voice. This is how it all unravels. Do you feel it? The trust slipping away? Carter's mind raced, rapidly assessing options as chaos brewed around them. Thompson. He shouted, locking eyes with his teammate. Get to the door. We can't stay here. Where's there to go? Thompson fired back, panic igniting his words. They'll shoot. Then we make them think twice. With resolve, Carter lunged to the nearest desk and grabbed a chair. flinging it toward the gunman, who recoiled, confusion blooming in his eyes. "Keep moving," Ramirez yelled, signaling the others. In that moment the officer's grip faltered, and chaos erupted anew. Gunfire erupted from outside, rattling the room like thunder. "Get down!" Carter shouted, diving for cover. The team followed suit, their instincts kicking in despite every muscle screaming to flee. "Carter!" Ramirez called from behind a overturned table, her voice threaded with urgency. "We need a plan. This can't keep going." But Carter was absorbed in the scene, every detail etched into his memory. Officers were struggling against the tide of uncertainty. The crack of gunfire outside heightened every heartbeat. "They're all scared," he whispered, half to himself, half to Ramirez. "If we can get them to realize this isn't, we might stand a chance." "Carter, focus," she hissed. "We don't have time. Collins has them turned against you." Her words struck like a bullet. He struggled to pull himself up, blood rushing in his ears. Pushing through the rubble of desks in despair, he shouted, "Listen. If you don't back down and start cooperating with us, more will die. We're not the enemy." Surprisingly, some faces turned toward him, uncertainty flickering in their eyes, not completely swayed, but wavering. "Daniels!" Carter yelled again, his voice rising over the din. "If that was true, we wouldn't be fighting for the same truth. You know that." Silence fell for just a moment. Fire surged outside as shouts became even more frenzied. "You're risking everything," Daniels breathed, the conflict etched in his face. "You think this will be forgiven? You think the higher-ups will let this slide? I'm not going to watch you all kill each other." Carter shouted back. "I may not be in command anymore, but I'll be damned if I don't try. You're still officers. We're still supposed to protect the innocent, even from the collusion that's put us here." But in that precarious moment the door burst open. 2 more officers stormed in, weapons drawn, faces cloaked in resolve but mixed with alarm. "What is happening?" one shouted, scanning the room. It was a moment of truth again. The question hung in the air. "Good or bad?" "Collins is the traitor," Thompson cried, scrambling to stand. "We're being set up." "Shut up," one of the newcomers barked, eyes narrowing. "Don't listen to him. It's a manipulation." Carter's heart hammered as he realized they were caught in a web. Without warning, another barrage of fire erupted outside the windows, sending glass shattering into the room, sending shards flying in every direction. "Get back," Ramirez screamed, throwing herself into Carter, pulling him down as chaos erupted anew. "Where do we go from here?" He thought aloud, fear pouring through him. Would the trust irrevocably break? Or could they find common ground with the officers trapped in this storm? "Carter!" Ramirez shouted above the din, the urgency in her voice piercing through. "What's the next move? We need something." And amidst the detonation of chaos, silence enveloped the room as they awaited an answer, the question looming heavy in the air. How far would they all go to survive, and at what cost? Gunfire rattled the air around them, the deafening pops mingling with the distant screams outside. Shards of glass glinted like fallen stars scattered across the floor, dust motes swirling through the chaos. Carter's heart pounded, the rhythm syncing with the escalating frenzy outside. "Carter, we need a way out," Ramirez yelled again, urgency dripping from her words. Her eyes searched his face, desperate for a flicker of a plan, a glimmer of hope, but he was still grappling with the tangled threads of the moment. "Thompson!" He shouted over the noise, his voice rising, trying to drown out the chaos. "What's the nearest exit?" Thompson glanced nervously around, his expression a mix of fear and realization. "The back door. But it leads into the alley. We'll be cornered. Better than staying here." Carter shot back. He glanced at the officers who still hesitated, caught between their instincts and the growing dread in the air. "We have to move fast. We're all in this together." "Together?" One of the newcomers snorted, still gripping his weapon tightly. "How do we know you're not part of this? We can't trust anyone." "This isn't about trust right now," Carter retorted, his voice stronger than he felt. "It's about survival. If you think we're the enemy, you're wrong. Collins wants us all to fall." Silence lingered momentarily as his words hung heavy in the air. A few officers exchanged glances, doubt painting their faces. Could he push through their fear? "Look out!" One officer pointed towards the window, their faces pale as dark figures moved closer outside. "Now!" Carter shouted. He grabbed Ramirez and gestured for Thompson to lead the way. With a surge of adrenaline, the group bolted for the back door, scrambling over debris and the remnants of shattered furniture, the adrenaline coursing through their veins like wildfire as they rushed toward freedom. Another explosion outside shot through the air like a lightning bolt. The blinding flash momentarily silhouetted the chaos, sending them down the narrow hall towards the back exit. With every step, Carter grappled with the reality of their dwindling chances. They burst through the door into the alley, cold air hitting them like a slap. The cacophony turned into an almost surreal backdrop, sirens wailing like banshees. Panic ignited in Carter as he absorbed the world outside, a world filled with chaos dancing on the edges of order. "Which way?" Thompson panted, scanning their surroundings, his eyes wide with fear. "Left," Ramirez yelled. "There's a side street that connects to Maple Avenue." They took off, darting into the shadowy embrace of the alleyway. Minds racing, hearts thumping. Suddenly, a scream echoed through the alley, freezing them in place. It pulled at Carter's gut, an echo of despair and desperation. He turned, eyes darting wildly as he tried to pinpoint its origin. "It's coming from the other side," Thompson gasped, his voice trembling. "Do we check?" Ramirez asked, her brow furrowing in deep concern. Carter's brain whirled. If they went toward the screams, they could find another innocent caught in the vortex of madness. But they might also walk straight into a trap laid by Collins and his deluded followers. "Wait, listen," Carter ordered, his heart pounding in his chest. The tense atmosphere resonated with the echoes of chaos surrounding them. Silence enveloped them, broken only by the distant thrum of sirens and the occasional crackle of gunfire. He pressed his back to the wall, squinting into the darkness. They needed to decide quickly. But just as Carter opened his mouth to suggest a route, he heard the faint sound of footsteps approaching, growing louder with every passing second. "Carter, what do we do?" Ramirez whispered, her voice almost a prayer. Panic surged again, flooding his veins. "Stay low. We need to hide. If they see us, we're dead." They ducked into a narrow alcove, holding their breath as the footsteps neared. A cold sweat trickled down Carter's back. Could it be allies or enemies? The footsteps grew closer, and the tension became almost unbearable, the air thick with dread. Then the figures emerged from the shadows, and Carter's heart dropped. "Carter!" A familiar voice called out, shocking him into revelation. It was Collins, flanked by officers who looked ready to fight. "Why are you hiding?" he asked with a mocking tone. "Don't you know? The game is just getting started." It took all of Carter's strength to keep from reaching for his weapon as the gravity of their situation settled around them like a noose, tightening ever so slowly. How had they fallen so far? How could they find a way back? "Now what's the plan?" Ramirez whispered, her eyes wide, and Carter knew there was no turning back. The truth sat heavily in the air. A storm waiting to break. What did Collins have planned next? They were in deep and the darkness was closing in. As Carter's heart raced, his mind spun with urgent thoughts. They were caught in a deadly game, the stakes higher than ever, and Collins stood in the center of it, all twisted, menacing, and somehow in control. He needed to act, and fast. "Ramirez, Thompson," Carter hissed, "we can't let them push us around any longer. We need to expose Collins for who he is." He glanced back at the growing shadows, realizing the tighter the noose of betrayal became, the more danger darkened their path. Collins stepped forward, an unsettling grin plastered on his face. But Carter, you're still missing the point. You were never meant to make it this far. It's all about survival of the fittest. And you? You're not fit enough." Carter's resolve hardened. "You think you can scare me, Collins? You're just a pawn in someone else's game." Collins chuckled, but there was a tremor beneath his bravado. "That's cute. But do you really believe that? If you think I'm the one pulling the strings, you're mistaken." As he spoke, the officers behind him shifted uncertainly, the flicker of fear breaking their disciplined facade. They weren't all lost. There could still be a way to rally them. Carter took a deep breath, focusing on every officer there, his voice steady and commanding. "You don't have to follow Collins. This isn't about loyalty anymore. It's about fighting for what's right." He gestured to the chaos around them. We all swore to protect this community. We're not enemies, we're on the same side. Remember who you are. The words hung in the air, charged and heavy. A murmur rippled through the group. Uncertainty shifted like a breeze. Some faces blinked, caught in a moment of doubt. Carter pressed on, desperation lacing his voice. We've all seen the darkness creeping in. The moments that made us doubt ourselves. But we can't let someone like Collins win. Fight with me. A young officer stepped forward, shaking his head. You're right, Chief. This isn't what we signed up for. Others began to nod, determination flaring where fear once flickered. Collins' confidence faltered as he felt the tide pulling against him. You fools! He shouted, anger cracking his composure. Do you really think siding with Carter will save you? This is your last chance. Stand with me and you might still have a chance of living through this. No. Rodriguez, another officer, shouted back. You're the one who put us in danger. The moment shifted dramatically. The officers began to turn, eyes narrowing at Collins, fists clenching. The truth was spilling forth, cracks appearing in the facade of obedience that Collins had spun. Carter stepped forward, emboldened by the shifting loyalties. Collins only cares about himself. He's not your ally, he's a threat. Just then chaos erupted outside. A chorus of sirens screamed louder. A cacophony that blurred reality and sent adrenaline pumping through everyone's veins. Collins' men shifted, uncertainty bubbling among them. Carter seized the moment. Now, everybody, we move. We'll find a way out together. They turned as one, bolting down the alley, past shattered glass and debris. The world outside was a whirlwind, flickering lights racing behind them as the chaos grew ever closer. The sound of sirens merged into a pitch of living fear, but now it was tempered by a new sense of hope inching forward as they reached the street corner. Carter glanced back, heart thundering. Collins and his loyalists started to follow, desperation etched in their faces. Don't let them take this from us, he shouted, rallying the group. Their path wound between buildings, each step filled with the ghosts of their pasts. They ducked into tight passages, hearts pounding in rhythm, feet pounding against pavement, fear morphing into something powerful, unstoppable. And then came the embodies, a wave of blue and red lights, officers maintaining order amid the chaos, tactical teams assembling to manage this unpredictable night. Carter raised his hands, desperation coloring his words. We need help. We just escaped. He turned, seeing the courage in the eyes of his own team. They shared a fleeting moment, united in purpose. They fight not just for their lives, but to reclaim the values of justice they once held dear. As the reinforcements stepped forward, arms crossed, guns raised, the sound of shouting filled the air. Carter, you're under suspicion. Carter stepped up, panic rising. No, you don't understand. Collins sold us out. We're trying to stop them. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then, hesitantly, one officer lowered his weapon. Carter, is that you? Yeah, it's me, he replied, the relief washing over him but tangled with uncertainty. We need to make this right. That officer's voice cut through the confusion. We'll give you a chance, but trust has to be rebuilt. As they coordinated, each team member felt the gravity of their purpose transform around them. They were stronger together, standing in the echo of all that once was. And in that unyielding moment, as Carter faced those new allies, he whispered a promise they would uncover the truth behind Collins and reclaim their town. From darkness they would forge light. With the fight ahead swirling before them and painful shadows creeping in search of answers, they stepped into the rising dawn, together as one. Now, this is the time to show your unwavering support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will leave you hanging on every word. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this amazing content coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this jaw-dropping ending. And for the love of every anxious moment ahead, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to understand, every click and comment matters. Don't wait even one more second to show your loyalty.